Okay, guys, we're at part 3 of discussing why the Francis family doesn't celebrate Halloween in the traditional sense. I think we should get into some practicals on this one here. We started talking about how do you actually handle this with your kids is when you're out in the world and the most of the world is celebrating this and they make a month out of it and it's everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you see this stuff. You see this stuff being sold and in the local Costco and everywhere else. And you see the yards getting filled up with, skeletons and graves and, things like that, or massive spiders hanging from the trees, right? All that kind of stuff. You see, it's like in your face for 30 days. You go to school, if your kids go to school and people are going to be asking, hey, what are you going to dress up for? What are you guys doing on Halloween? Hey, can we go together and go trick-or-treating together? And these are good people who haven't really probably thought through this. I don't want to even call it a holiday. This Halloween.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call it a holiday.
This event that happens.
This event. Thank you for that. Okay.
October time.
And so when I remember how we started really building this in is honestly, it's through the word. Like we have taken a lot of time with our kids, especially our first 5 when they were younger, to take time in the mornings, go through Proverbs, go through different parts of Scripture, and talk through things. And we would talk about why you have to guard your eye gates and your ear gates, why you don't put the wrong inputs in your mind, how things get stuck in your head and they create fear, how fear is not what we're supposed to walk in. We're supposed to be walking in faith. So we have to protect ourselves, because if you put the wrong stuff in, it gets stuck in there. You and I could have examples right now of things that we saw. I mean, like we've talked about this before. I'm going over to my buddy's house. His mom is going out for the night. Him and I get to be there. His older brother was there. We're probably 7th grade, something like that. And we play basketball all day. I mean, I see Drew's doing it whenever he has a friend over, right? Mm-hmm. But then at night, there was no, there was nobody watching what we were doing. So, hey, let's watch a movie. And the movie they had sitting out was this movie called The Hitcher. And it was all about this hitchhiker who basically, once they get hitchhiked, they just do this horrible stuff, right? I remember being in 7th grade. I to this day, I still have a bad dream once in a while.
Sure.
I'm 50, And so this is the kind of stuff that, we're really teaching our kids. We're not doing this. We're not going to the scary movies. We're not doing things that instill fear. And you know what? We don't care if people in the world are like, oh gosh, you guys are so overprotective. It's like, okay, I don't really care what your opinion is. Mm-hmm. I care about what God's opinion is. And so this is part of how we built this in, though. So when even things like Halloween come around, our kids kind of get, oh, well, why would we participate in that? There's so many fear things that are there, and we know to guard ourselves.
Yes. I think it starts way before Halloween. So if you're starting to think about how do we prep our family? I mean, of course, I would have the conversation today, husband and wife, figure out how you want to communicate it together as a family. But I will tell you, everything you're talking about lines exactly up with multiple things for us. That's why, we teach our kids early. There are not just at Halloween time, there are movies we're not going to watch and you will not watch.
That's right.
There are certain books you will not read, we're not going to read. There are certain events we're not going to attend, you're not going to attend. Mm-hmm. And we all bring it back to what the word says and why. So that kind of for us is all year round. That is all year round. So when it came time for Halloween, that would be no exception to the rule, I feel like.
Yeah.
The standard was already there. We don't do certain things that don't glorify God. This is one of the things that doesn't glorify God. We will not be doing it.
Okay.
And so that was we taught our kids what that sounded like and what that looked like.
So then when they go to school or they get around their friends and they start getting asked these questions, what do you tell them?
I mean, when they were really young and they couldn't communicate well,
yeah.
2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, kindergarten, we would just tell them, if somebody asks you, hey, what are you going to be for Halloween? All you would have to say is, our family doesn't really celebrate that.
That's right.
And if they're like, oh, how come? Be like, it just doesn't really line up with how we want to do things. And at first, because they didn't know how to explain, well, it doesn't line up with the word, it doesn't line up with God. They didn't know how to go to this all. And their friends weren't really looking to be educated either. And so we would really just say, it really doesn't line up with how our standards are for our family. We don't celebrate it.
Yeah.
And their friends were like, oh.
Yeah, okay. Move on.
Literally.
They move on.
I would have parents ask me, though, hey, my kid said at pickup
sure.
that you guys don't celebrate Halloween. Can I ask why? I'd be like, I'm really glad you do. You know what?
Yeah. What an opportunity.
Yes. Early on, when my husband and I started discussing what it looked like for us and our family, this was one of the events that didn't line up with how our faith was.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't line up with how we wanted to honor God.
Yeah.
So we just made an early decision to teach our kids, and we don't celebrate it.
Yeah.
And if they asked more, that would give me more an opportunity.
And even be able to say, and by the way, in its place, we do a celebration of harvest.
That's right.
We do a fall celebration. We have all the fun, innocent parts that most people enjoy about like a Halloween celebration, but we just do it to honor God.
That's right.
And not honor darkness.
And honestly, sometimes it led to a good conversation where they were kind of like, oh, if you end up doing one of those this time, maybe we could swing by yours.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And then for some people, it'd be like, oh, I just don't know how I'd tell my kids we're not doing it. So thanks.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, okay. And it was just really easy. And our kids never, I will tell you, they never felt like they were missing out.
Yeah.
They didn't want to participate.
Yeah.
I feel like in today's world, we feel like we have to give our kids every opportunity to enjoy every little thing that we did as a kid, because if not, we're like ruining their childhood.
Yeah, that's the pressure of social media.
And our kids never, you will ask them today, I'm glad we never did that. I never wanted to participate in that. When people were walking around at night and it was scaring me, I wouldn't want to do that, Mom.
Yep.
Like, even today, Hunter's like, we don't do that. Like, nobody feels like they're missing a thing.
No,
And,
they don't.
Because honestly, for us, it was just being honest with our kids about our standards and what we were going to fulfill and how we wanted to do things. And it was never like a punishment. Like, we never made it so, well, because this is what Dad and I believe, you don't get to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
our
and
kids never felt that way.
It's kind of nice when you have these opportunities, like that person that asked, the mom that asked,
Yeah. Actually, several times.
It's nice now to, in the past, we weren't really connected to a community yet that we really believed in the church community.
Correct.
And so, we, like you said, sometimes we would do our own fall things, and we'd invite people over for that. But people do want opportunities to do something different. People do want that. And so, it's kind of nice. Like right now, we belong to a church that they are really proactive about being out into the marketplace around Halloween and pulling them into more of a celebration of harvest versus, they see it as almost like an opportunity for ministry.
Right.
So some people are out there in the neighborhoods on Halloween Day and stuff, and they're just being a light, and then gets people asking questions like they were asking us. And so I think that's kind of cool that people will do that, in some places. For us still, we just kind of don't really participate in it just because we just don't, and that's why, like, we kind of plan other stuff, and our family likes it. This time we're going up to, we're going up
getaway. We're going to do a little
getaway up on a lake in the mountains, and going to go have our own celebration, have fun, and
we're excited about it. And honestly, too, again, for our family, even if that wasn't the case, even if there was not a fall festival that we got to maybe host ourselves or go to, even if there wasn't a getaway, whatever it may be, we would have fun doing something else, and it would still be us being the light. So, I just encourage you out there, if you're thinking to yourself, my gosh, I don't really know how to implement this. I don't know how my kids will react. Oh, I don't want to let them down and stuff like that.
I don't want to look silly to my friends. I don't want to get there.
Yes.
I don't want to have to argue with people about this.
I don't want to be embarrassed or have my kids be embarrassed because they have to say, no, we're not doing that this year when we've done it for the last however many years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just encourage you again. Real friends support you.
Yeah.
Like, real friends are like, hey, is that something you want to do this year? And if you're like, actually, no, it's not. We learn a few things and it doesn't really go with our standard for our family, that we just don't want to participate.
Yeah.
Real friends are going to be like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
Let me know. And whether they join you or not is not the point.
Yep.
The point is real friends want to hear what you're doing. And other friends, if they do kind of like, well, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to tell your kids? Oh my gosh, you're not really doing that, are you?
Right. So they're negative Nillies. And so then you're just going to avoid those people.
And I think that's a heart check for you to decide what kind of friends you have.
Yeah. Sure.
Many times we've had to do heart checks on that.
Challenges when it's family members and stuff like that, because that happens quite a bit. But even then, though, okay, this is just a boundary.
Correct.
Like I'm not going to talk to my brother about Halloween or whether his kids should do it or not, because I know that he was one of the ones that was kind of big into it, right? And so I also know that he would only want to be combative and argumentative with me. Like he would not be interested. Like, wait a minute, can you help explain to me more your thought process?
Right.
He would just be like, oh, okay, good for you, whatever, choir boy.
Yeah.
Like he would
pick on you.
It's
for
like
it,
the
really.
word. The word says that when you are following. It says there's so many benefits to following the ways of Christ, but expect persecutions.
Right.
So you're not going to have everybody agree with you, right? And that's going to be okay. That's part of just like, this is part of raising champion kids in a crazy world. You can't be, it's the Bible says be in the world, but not of the world.
Right.
And so you're going to have to walk the opposite direction of the crowd sometimes, right? And so that's part of what we were doing. I'll tell you another thing, just so another practical thing. You should have a resource or two. I think that we've done a good job with explaining how we feel about this and what we've learned and, the word of God applied to this on these 3 episodes of this podcast. I would suggest if anybody is ever like, I don't know if I really want to participate in this, and somebody asks why, just say, hey, listen to this podcast. Just check this out. That way it's not on you. I love having tools like that, right? So it's not just me. I came up with my own opinion somehow. And so now I am going to just stand on my opinion. It's like, no, why don't you hear some different perspectives?
Yes. And then you don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
I think so many times when we make decisions that are kind of bold, we might feel like we're alone in that. And I'll just let you know, you're not. So when you can find resources of other people that resonate with what you're feeling, it's so nice to have those tools available so you can pass them on to those that you love so they can better understand. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other practicals? Got a couple minutes left here.
I think one of the other things is not to shy away. When it is a conversation that you can have with those that you are in a community with and you're doing life with, don't shy away from good opportunities to talk to people.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a friend that was over yesterday, and she was just asking me about certain movies that we let our kids watch. And do we kind of have a list of the ones that we let them watch at different ages? Because they're trying to figure out what they can watch with their kids nowadays. I said, we do. We actually do have a list of what we do and don't let our kids watch. More what we do let them do. There's too many of not to watch movies, but more what ones do work with our family and at what age those do work. And she was so engaged and excited to hear about that conversation that I think it's an opportunity all the time that can lead from, hey, this is why we also, as you're asking me about movies, this is why we choose certain books our kids can watch, or certain even association they can have, or like even this, moving into this topic, even why we do or don't celebrate certain events that are going on today, and I just really think it's important for us to not shy away, be the person that's willing to have the conversation. Doesn't mean you need to be rude, doesn't mean you need to be, disrespectful, but you can be honoring to your own standards and press it and be like, actually, I'm glad you asked that. This is our thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Walk like Christ. I mean, he's not going to sit there and just be like, you're such a loser because you have a thought. It's like, I love you enough to actually tell you some truth.
Right.
Because you're probably seeking it and that's the way I see most people. I just see that most people are literally still trying to celebrate the way that you and I had it described growing up.
I do too.
Like that's what I feel like 99% of people are probably doing, But even then though, it's like it's enough contamination.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think too, one more thing that I could say practical is if, I remember when our kids were in school before we homeschool, and on the day of, if there was going to be like a big parade about it or dress up day of it or something like that, we had just made a decision. They're going to stay home that day and we're going to do something fun.
Yeah.
We never,
and we would plan an event.
Right. We would do something, a family fun day.
So they weren't like feeling like they're missing something.
Correct.
They were excited to do what we were going to do.
And so I just encourage you, be bold enough to do that too. And I always just told the school, I mean, when they were like, oh, I'm like, my kids won't be in on Thursday or whatever it is. And if they're like, oh, you already know, I'd be like, yep, we're having a family fun day. We don't celebrate that event. And so for our family, we're going to go do something else that does do what our family likes to enjoy. And many times they would ask me, how come you don't celebrate it?
Sure.
And that would give me another opportunity to chat with maybe the principal or the teacher about our thoughts, just so they understand the standard of our family.
Yep.
And so when our kids do come into the classroom, they can understand why our kids are the light and that we're okay with missing out on stuff. Our kids don't need to feel like they have to participate in things that do not line up. I'm not going to put them in a position when they're too young to try to be a strong light when there was other things coming in to possibly make them feel awkward.
Right. And I'll say last point is, I think not just with Halloween, but just in general, when there's situations like this that you're going to be fairly in opposition to what the majority of the world's going to do around you, you got to really make space to have good conversations with your kids. Because, you got to to ask your 6-year-old, hey, so, have you heard anything about Halloween from any of your friends, whether it's at church or whether it's school? And, oh, they said this. So tell me about it. What'd you think? And just ask questions and try to get their thinking or what they're hearing, and then you can address it.
Right.
But don't just not have any conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times, kids won't necessarily bring it up unless you ask them. And so that's why we like our family team meetings, of course. Everybody wants to go to our Redwood Parenting.org, I think it is, .com, geez.
We'll put it all in the description.
Redwood Parenting website, and you can get the family placemat.
Yeah, and if you go check out our Instagram right now, also Redwood_parenting, you can also get our placemats from there.
Very cool. So anyways, great topic. Nice job. Appreciate you engaging the conversation with me instead of thinking I was talking to somebody else. And I think you're cute. So love you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. See you next time.